Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's DAF, KIDDUSHIN Lamed Hey. We are right in the midst of a sugya discussing two types of mitzvahs aseh, positive mitzvahs. Time-related, those are mitzvahs aseh shazman grama. They're related to time. Then we have mitzvahs aseh shelo yazman grama, unrelated to time. General mitzvahs like Talmud Torah, etc. Men are obligated all those mitzvahs. However, nashim, women are only chayav in the second category. Mitzvahs which are not bound by time, not time specific. Mitzvahs aseh shazman grama do not include women. So they're exempted from those mitzvahs. Some Mefarshim suggest the reason for this would be that women are meant to be involved with their offspring, care for their families, and unable to restrict, to limit themselves, to be mekayim certain mitzvahs in certain times, so they're unbound by those mitzvahs. They're patur from mitzvahs aseh shazman grama. Now, how do we know this? So yesterday's daf we focused on the first aspect of this formula, so to speak. We have the makar, the source for which was tefillin, just as Talmud Torah is not applicable to women. We have a pasuk for that, tefillin as well, and tefillin is the sort of catalyst for the whole formula, because tefillin is a mitzvah aseh shazman grama. You don't wear tefillin at night, you don't wear it on Shabbos and Yom Tov, and it doesn't apply to women. Likewise, any other mitzvah that conforms to this criteria, it's not a zman grama, then women are exempted as well. Now we do have some exceptions to the rule. We had matzah, we had hakel, perhaps simcha, several cases where we find that women are included, even in a mitzvah aseh shazman grama. But as we learned yesterday, whenever we have a duplication, shnei ksuvim, a repetition, when the Torah repeats something once and again, it's to denote that it's limited to only these two cases. So we don't apply the concept to other mitzvahs aseh shazman grama. Only by matzah and simcha v'hakel they're included, otherwise not. Okay, so that was phase one of the sugya. Now let's focus on phase two. On the flip side, says the Gemara, we started yesterday, let's just go back a bit to review and carry into the next piece of Gemara. So we're back on Lamed Dal Dav and Beis, 7 lines from the bottom. What about part 2 of this formula? Mitzvahs which are not time specific apply to women as well. Minolan, how do we know that to be true? We learn it from the part of Kibbud of Aim, which is called Moira of Aim, to show awe, reverence, which is sourced in the pasuk Ish imay v'aviv tira'u, and that includes women as well. Ma moira, just as that mitzvah applies to women as well. Nashim chayavos. I've called mitzvahs aseh shelo yazman grama. Any mitzvah aseh which is not time related also applies to women. Nashim chayavos. Asks the Gemara, but we have deviations. V'neilef mitalmud Torah. We have exceptions to this rule. Talmud Torah is not a mitzvah which is bound by time and place. It's above time and place. It's all encompassing, and it only applies to men. So that sort of flies in the face of this concept that we just mentioned. It's a lo yazman grama and still excludes women. Answers the Gemara. Once again, we have shnei ksuvim. We have that duplication. We have 2 examples of such. Mishum dahavale Talmud Torah. That's number 1. Upiri of a review, having children. That's not a chiyuv, an obligation applied to women. So we have the shnei ksuvim, right, the duplication, shnei ksuvim avam ke'echad, and we know that when that's the case, we cannot spread that elsewhere. We don't learn from there, because why else would the Torah have to repeat it once and again, unless to tell us it's only specific to these 2 places and not elsewhere. So before we continue, just try to crystallize the first part of this sugya. Zman grama, no women. Lo hazman grama includes women as well. In Zman grama we have exceptions. Matzah, simcha, v'hakel. There is Zman grama, but still applied to women. We can't learn from there because it's shnei ksuvim. On the other hand, Shloyaz Mangroma applied to women, we have exceptions. Talmud Torah, Perivya, but we can't learn from there because it's Shnei Ksuvim. Then here's the Gemara. So you're telling me Talmud Torah and Perivya are Shnei Ksuvim, but according to the Shita, coming up in a minute, that Perivya apply to women. So then we only have one exception, which is Talmud Torah. And let's learn from there that a mitzvah saseh shleas man groma excludes nashim. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, according to his shita, the Amar, al shneim hu eimer vayivarech oisem elakim pru uravu. Hashem told them pru uravu, them, Adam and Chava. They're both included in the mitzvah of having offspring. So now you're left with only one exception to the rule. Talmud Torah. It's not Zman Groma, and it does not include Nashim. So Michael, remember, now we're stuck. Let's learn from there that all mitzvahs aseh shelo yad Zman Groma are not relevant to Nashim. The answer is Mishum Dehava Talmud Torah Upidin Haben. We add another exception to the rule. We add Pidin Haben, redeeming your firstborn child. We add that to the Talmud Torah list. So once again, you have two examples of mitzvahs which are not Zman Groma, and from which Nashim are Pater. Shnei Ksuvim Ke'echad, V'chol Shnei Kesuvim Habam Ke'echad Ein Malamdan. They don't teach two other cases. Asks the Gemara. Now, Ul Rabbi Yehuda Kessler Nami. Well, even according to Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, we're going to have a kasha. On the flip side, because according to him, you now have two clear, sources for mitzvahs azeh shelo yad Zman Groma, which apply to women. You have Moira of Aim, right? Ish Imav Aviv Tira'u, it's going on both son and daughter, and we have Piru Uravu, where there's a pasuk stating that the Ish is included. So now we're in trouble because we have Shnei Ksuvim, in which case we say, 1 second, it's only limited to these two locations and not elsewhere. In which case, another example of a mitzvah saseh shelo yad Zman Groma would not include women, only here, not elsewhere. Let's have number one, Piri V'Rivya, and number two, Moira Avim, to form that duplication, Shnei Kesuvim, Habaim Ke'echad. Both are telling us the same thing, that a mitzvah which is not bound by time applies to women, and only these two, not elsewhere. Ve'im Malamdim. It's not a duplication. There's a reason why the Torah has to mention both. Tzrichi, the Igaz of Rachmana Moira. If the Torah only tells us about Moira Ava'im, which include Nashim, like Igaz of Piru V'Rivya, not Puravu, Havamina, I would say they're not included in the mitzvah of Piru Ravu Amina V'chiv Shua. The pasuk, when speaking about having children, says, Umilo Sa'ares, to fill the land, V'chiv Shua, and take it over, and occupy it, and conquer it. So perhaps that's a reference to only men. V'chiv Shua, Amar Rachmana. Who's meant to go out and spread his wings and overtake countries and lands and capture? Ish the darkei lechabish. Only a man who's accustomed to going and waging war and conquering. Ish the darkei lichbaish in. Only he's included in the mitzvah puravu. Isha the ein darka lechabish le, but not an isha. And that's why we need that pasuk specifically by puravu. Because Rachmana Piravi Rivya, but because of Moira, the Torah only say the Piravi Rivya, which includes women, but not specifically state that by Moira Aveim, I wouldn't know it. Havamin, I would say, well, Ish, the Sipek Biyad Lasis, in only a man who's an independent person, even when he's married, he's independent, he's not subservient to his wife, so in which case he has the ability to serve his parents properly. So he's obligated to do so. But Isha, a woman who's subservient to her husband, de'ein sipek biyada lasois, so she can't necessarily, go and care for her parents, at the expense of her family. So perhaps she's not bound by it. And since at times she's not able to carry it out, then perhaps the Torah does not apply the mitzvah to her at all. Even if she's a single woman and she could do it, but it's sort of a blanket exemption. That's why the pasuk has to state specifically no. When she's able to do it, she should do it. So we don't have the concept of shnei ksuvim b'am ke'echad because it's not a duplication, they're both needed. Okay, in which case we answer the kasha. Again, the kasha was Piri v'rivya and moira ava'im are shnei ksuvim. No, they're not shnei ksuvim. And therefore we can allow ourselves to include nashim in all mitzvahs aseh shalei hazman grum. Now, earlier on the Amid here, we said, we have a kasha that let's learn from Talmud Torah that any mitzvah which is not Zman Grama is not relevant to Nashim. And the answer was, according to Rechon Breaker, we have Talmud Torah and Pidin Aben, so Shnei Ksuvim doesn't provide that source. That's if you're going with that approach. The machlokes, whether Shnei Ksuvim are Malamed or not. So you're working with the notion that it's not Malamed. Okay. But according to the other Shita, elsewhere in Shas, who holds that even when we have Shnei Ksuvim, you can learn, you can apply it elsewhere. Now we're really stuck. Michael Lememar, what are we going to do now? Because although we have Talmud Torah and Pidin Aben, which are Shnei Ksuvim, but we can apply the concept elsewhere. We could use it as a source to tell us that Nashim are pater, even on mitzvahs aseh shelo hazman grama. So that's really one aspect of this kasha. But really there's another aspect as well, because if you recall yesterday, we were discussing the first part of this formula, that mitzvahs which are hazman grama don't apply to Nashim, but we have some exceptions. We had matzah, we had hakel, zman grama, and Nashim archai. We said, shnei ksuvim. Now comes the new kasha. Maybe shnei ksuvim are malamed. So basically we're stuck on both ends of this equation. We lost all our sources. Amar Rava, I'll give you another source, an alternate source, which will put you at ease. Papunoi, the people who live in Papuna, Yadila, Latama, the Hamilsa, they'll give you the explanation, they'll give you the formula that solves all your problems. They'll provide the source that you're looking for. Umanai, who specifically was he referring to? Which Talmud of Papuna? Rav Achbar Yaakov, who comes from Papuna. And here's the source. Amakra, we have an outright hekesh. Hekesh is a connection found in an actual pasuk. Amakra, this is the tefillin that you wear on your hands. And the pasuk continues, Lama'an tiya teres Hashem beficha. So there's a clear reference to Torah in the same pasuk as tefillin, and we allow ourselves that connection between the two ideas. Hukshu kol Torah kula tefillin, we connect the entire Torah to tefillin, and it follows the tefillin formula. Ma tefillin mitzvah aseh hazman grama. V'noshim turis. Tefillin is a time-related mitzvah. It doesn't apply at night, not on Shabbos and Yom Tov. And women are pater. We know that for a fact because we had the pasuk connecting it to Talmud Torah. We had this yesterday. So that's the key. Zman grama, no nashim. Afkoil, likewise elsewhere. Kol mitzvah aseh shazman grama, noshim turis. And from the fact that the Torah has to tell you that they're pater in this case, apparently they're chayiv elsewhere. Right? That's the flip side of the coin here. So we learn the other part as well. Mechlal apparently mitzvah say shelo hazman grama. If it's a mitzvah which is not bound by time, nashim chayavis. So we have an alternate source for both parts of the equation. It's all about the hekesh to tefillin. We're not done yet. We have another kasha. You're assuming that in fact tefillin is a zman grama. It doesn't include Shabbos and Yom Tov. But it's not so simple. Not everybody agrees to that. So by the way, we have at this point we have two sources for the entire, formula. Mitzvah sensation on the grama, no nashim, and lo yazman grama, yes nashim. We had yesterday's sugya. We compared it to tefillin through a binyan av, not within the pasuk, but more of like a conceptual comparison. But we found there was exceptions, and we had to answer that it's shnei ksuvim, but that only worked according to one shita. According to the other shita, the shnei ksuvim can provide a source. We're stuck. So we had to have the second alternate pshat, which we just mentioned now. Soon we're going to have a third pshat. So this is based on the notion that tefillin is a time-specific mitzvah, right? But actually, there are some that disagree. Tefillin is not bound by time. You can wear it on Shabbos, on Yom Tov, which is actually Shittas Rabbi Meir and Shittas Rabbi Yehuda discussed in Mesechas Eruvin. Okay, so according to them, the whole formula was just dismantled. Michael Amemar. Answer: Man shamas like the Amar Tefillin mitzvah zeish man grama. Who's that author? Who's the sheet of that Chiddush? Rabbi Meir. Okay, so according to him, source number 2, the second source that we just discussed, the Hekesh, the Tefillin doesn't work. But according to him, we can still use approach number 1, the earlier approach, because he holds that Shnei Ksuvim are not Malamid. So he's consistent with the first approach in the Gemara. V'savala Shnei Ksuvim habayim ke'echad, v'chol Shnei Ksuvim habayim ke'echad ein Malamid. But we're not done yet. Because if we find a shita that holds that tefillin doesn't conform to this criterion, it is an unbound mitzvah, and he'll hold that Shnei Ksuvim are Malamid, then we're really stuck. Because approach number 1 was based on Shnei Ksuvim, not Malamid. Approach number 2 was based on tefillin being mitzvah zeish man groma. But if you disagree with both, then you're really stuck without a source for the entire sugya. Who's that shita? Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda the Amar Shnei Ksuvim habayim ke'echad ar malamdin, and he holds number 2, strike 1, strike 2, with tefillin mitzvah zeish man groma, then we're really stuck without any solution to our quest. Michael Amemar. Here comes track number 3. Approach number 3. A third source to the concept that mitzvah sasei man grama doesn't apply to nashim. True, shnei ksuvim are malamid, but not 3 ksuvim. When the Torah repeats it once, again, 3 times, that's certainly sending us a message that it's specific to these. So actually, we have 3 exceptions. Mishum da'havoi matzah, simcha, v'hakel. We have 3 exceptions to the rule. All these mitzvahs, matzah, simcha, v'hakel, apply to women despite the fact that they're zman grama, shloisha kesuvim, habayim ke'echad, all repeating the same theme, including women. Shloisha kesuvim, habayim ke'echad, ein malamid. According to all shittas, when you have 3 psukim, you have a repetition after repetition, that's certainly limiting it to these specifics, these cases, and cannot be applied elsewhere. So now you know that an isha is pater from mitzvah sasei man grama, and Rashi explains the source will be re'iyah, showing your face, visiting Hashem, visiting Beis Hamikdash on Yom Tov, and bringing a carbon. Kol zechurcha, pasuk specifies only men. From there we will learn a mitzvah sasei man grama only applied to men. And despite the fact that we have some exceptions, but 3 exceptions, ein malamdim. It's limited. It's restricted to those cases, and that's it. Okay, so bottom line is, mitzvah sasei man grama only applied to men. We have exceptions. Matzah, simcha, hakel. Mitzvah sasei lo man grama include women as well. We have exceptions as well. We have Talmud Torah, Pidin Ben. We have perhaps Piri Verivia. What's the source? How do we know all these things? So, in terms of the first part of this formula, that time-related mitzvahs only apply to men, we have 3 possible options. A connection to tefillin, a hekesh to tefillin, or from a re'iyah. And despite the fact that we have exceptions to the rule, we can't learn from there. They're not melamed. How do we know mitzvahs as mangrom apply to women as well? From the pasuk ish imay v'aviv tira'u. And despite the fact that we have some exceptions, they are not melamed. So we concluded the sugya regarding mitzvahs asay, the two types of mitzvahs, which one applied to men only and which include women. Continues the Gemara. What about the other category? Chol mitzvahs loisa asay. All negative commandments apply to women as well, except for three, as mentioned in the Mishnah, which we're going to discuss later. But Manan, immediately, how do we know that nashim are included, generally included in mitzvahs loisa asay? Amar v'damar v'chein tana der b'shmol amakro. We have a pasuk ish oy isha, right, specifying women as well. Ki yasum kol chatay adam. We're speaking there about violating the shvua. So we see that women are included in the mitzvahs lois asay as well. They're responsible for lois asays. Right. So hishva kosav isha leish. In this part, the Torah is basically equating the isha to the ish, pertaining to all punishments, the chol einshim shebatorah, carbon or malchus, any punishment, misa. They're just as responsible as men. That's one option. Devei Reb Lezer Tana. We have another pasuk. Amakro asher tasum lifneim. This is the first pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim, discussing all the halachas of monetary disputes and litigations. Lifneim is plural. Hishva hakosav isha l'ish l'chol dinim shebetorah. In this pasuk, Torah is equating the isha to the ish regarding all dinim, all mishpatim. Third source, Dvei Chizkiah Tana, Amakro v'hemis isha isha. This is where a shor, an ox, killed a man or a woman, and the owner has to pay up. Hishva hakosav isha l'ish. Once again, the Torah equates the isha to the ish l'chol misa shebetorah regarding all the dinei nefashis, capital issues. Now, why do we need three psukim for the same idea? Utzricha, they're all needed. Each one highlights a different aspect of this concept. The Yashminach Kamais, if only that first pasuk, discussing the isha bringing a korban on account of a false oath, I would say Mishum Kapara, she's trying to atone for her deeds, Chas Rachmana Allah. So perhaps there the Torah has pity on her and allows her to in fact address her violations by bringing a korban. Aval Dina, but when it comes to monetary issues, Ema, perhaps I would say it's men specific. Ish the bar masel matan, in only men who are engaged in business, and it's their forte, and so they're obligated and bound by those laws. Ish alay, but not women. That's why we need that second pasuk. No, women are included as well. If only this pasuk, Mishum chayusahi, I would say, because otherwise who's going to deal with her? She's not bound by monetary laws. Mishum dechayusahi, aval kaifer ema. When it comes to kapara, which is pasuk number 3, kaifer, where you pay that, a payment upon killing somebody. Ema, perhaps there I would say ish the bar mitzvah is in. It's only applicable to killing a man who's obligated in mitzvahs, and by killing him you are disrupting his mitzvahs. Right? So a man is obligated in more mitzvahs than the isha. So perhaps it only applies there, isha loy, but not by the woman who was killed. That's why we need that special pasuk to include the isha. If only from this last pasuk, I would say, after all, she was killed, there's a loss of life, chas rachmana Allah, the Torah takes extra care and includes her as well. But in the first two situations where there's no loss of life, perhaps loy, isha is not relevant and not included. Tzricha, that's why we need 3 psukim, each one highlighting a different aspect, where we equate the isha to the ish. So generally she's included, except for chutz mi bal takif, ubal tashchus, ubal tatam alamesim. Bal takif involves removing the payas, removing the hair sort of around the head in a circle, removing the corners, the payas. Bal tashchus, destroying one's beard, and bal tatam alamesim is where a kohen is not meant to engage in a tumas mace. All these 3 restrictions only men specific and don't apply to nashim. How do we know? Bishleim about the Tamal Mason. Well, that's simple. This is the beginning of Pashas Emor. Warning against becoming impure by associating with a mace, and the pasuk specifies Bnei Aaron. Bnei Aaron of Bnei Aaron, women are not included. So that takes care of that. El about takif, about tashchus benol. What about hair removal? Limitations. Who says they don't apply to women? The answer is this is a pasuk in Pashas KIDDUSHIN, where we equate, where we sort of connect the two isurim, loisakif and loisashchus, and we connect the two. Kol sheyeshne ba'ashchos, only a man who can potentially destroy his beard, he has a beard. Yeshne ba'akafa, likewise, the isur of akafas harish, peyos removal, apply to him as well. V'ani nashi, but women, hoyev lo yisnu ba'ashchosa, the concept of beard removal is inapplicable to the nashim, so it's a package deal. Lisnu ba'akafa, the other isur of akafas harish doesn't apply to them either. Who says hashchasas hazaken, hair removal on one's beard, is not relevant to the isha? So we have two answers. Either it's just a plain logic, it's a svara, they don't have a beard, and apparently the Gemara is assuming even if there is some hair growing, some facial hair, it's not considered a zaken, it's just random hair, it's not a proper beard arrangement, it's not classified as a beard, so they don't have the concept of ashchasas hazaken. Otherwise we can have a pasuk which will teach us the same. Torah switched the lashon. By peyo it says roishchem, plural, and by pas zikanecha it's singular. Why that switch over in terminology? The switch over in reference teaches us that it's specific to only one gender, because otherwise the imkei nichtav rachmana pas zekanachem. Why would the Torah switch from Rabim to Yachid? Just as it says pas roishchem, it should say pas zekanachem. My zekanacha. Why lashon Yachid zekanacha? Only yours. V'lo zekan ishtcha, not your wife's. So now we know that nashim are not included in these three isurim. So you're assuming that the concept of zakan is not relevant by the isha, v'loy. V'atanya, listen to this price. Zakan isha v'asaris she'elu seyar harehu hein kezakan chol devreim. Even an isha or a saris, a male who's severely hormonally imbalanced, typically doesn't grow facial hair as an ordinary, as a your typical man. But if hair grew on their faces, saris and the isha, that's the stress. Even the isha, that beard is considered like a regular beard. L'chol divrei. I love lashchas. We're assuming for ashchas as hazakan. So you see they're included. Amar Abaye, no. Lashchas lematzis amers. You can't even suggest, as such, that the brisa is indicating to us that an isha is warned against removing her beard. You can't say that. Why? We have a gzera shava that teaches us that. The olive pa'as, we connect the word pa'as. Pa'as over here, from pa'as in Emor, Parshas Emor, Bibnei Aaron, in the parsha of the Kohanim there. And we say, look, ma'alahala nashim peturas, just like over there. The Torah begins with Emor ala kahana b'nei Aaron, and then it goes on to explain the Yisra of becoming tamei, hair removal, beard removal. And just like over there, the Torah is addressing only the men, it says b'nei Aaron. And that's encompassing the entire parsha there, not just tumah. Hair removal of all sorts. So just like there, nashim are peturas, they're excluded. Ma'alahala nashim peturas, avkan nashim peturas, likewise over here by the Yisraelim. Only men are included in the Isra of Ashchasas Hazaka, not women. Now, just as a side point now, before we get back to, there was a brisa, we just quoted a brisa that the Isha's zakan is treated like a zakan regarding everything, and I was sort of negating that because of the Gzera Shava. So how do we explain that brisa? What was the brisa referring to? We'll get back to that soon. But first, it's sort of like going into a tangent here, like a bracket. What do you mean Abaye? Abaye presented a new Gzera Shava, which is based on the notion that Emor Ela Kohana B'nei Aaron, the first pasuk in Parshas Emor, is a reference to all details mentioned in that parsha. Only men are warned against becoming tummy. Only men are warned against removing their hair and their beard. Now, if it's true, this notion is correct, that the term B'nai Aaron covers everything in the parsha, even beard removal, then why does the pasuk have to give us this Nugzera Shava, which allows us to apply, this concept that beard removal is only men related, allows us to apply it not just to the Kayanim, but even to the Israelim through this Gzera Shava, pas. Skip the Gzera Shava. We have a more simple method of learning. Kavachemer. V'anamin, I would say like this: Oma Kayanim, sheriba behem hakosav. Mitzvahs yesevus. Even Kayanim will have a higher standard, they have more mitzvahs. Still, women are not included. B'nai Aaron, only they may not destroy their beards. V'loi b'nai Aaron, and the women in the Aaron families can do so. Certainly the Israelim, who are not held to such high standards as Kayanim, Israel like Kolshkin, of course, women are excluded. We don't need Gzera Shava. Well, says the Gemara, let me explain that to you. Ilav Gzera Shava, because if not for the Gzera Shava specifying that it's true, Havamina, then I would rearrange I would learn the Psukim differently. Havamina Hifzika, I would say, well, you're right. The parsha actually begins with Bnei Aaron, but Hifzika Inyan, it got disrupted. Bnei Aaron, V'loi Bnei Aaron only refers to the first aspect of that parsha regarding Tumah of Kehanim. That only applies to men, but regarding subsequent topics, beard removal, all that, it's a new topic. And it applies to women as well. So I could not figure this out on my own. I wouldn't assume that everything in Parshas Emor is only men specific. I would say only Tumah, but the other concepts apply to women as well. That's why we need this new Gzera Shava, which says, one second, we're connecting Yisraelim to Kohanim. What's the point of connecting? Because just as by Kohanim, all the halachas are men specific, by the Yisraelim as well. Says the Gemara, well, even with this Gzera Shava, you still haven't gained much, because you can still cut off the parsha and say that Bnei Aaron, V'loi Bnei Aaron is only on Tumah and not everything else. Well, you asked me about the Gzera Shava, I'll tell you, it's coming for something else. The sign is coming to teach us an entirely new idea, giving us the details and specifics regarding the Isurim of removing one's beard and one's pears. To what extent, what method entails an Isur. Nothing to do with men and women. Regarding giving us the criteria of the basic Isur. The fundamentals of the Isur, the L'sani Galechu. This is the pasuk by Kohanim. They should not remove their peyos, right? Perhaps even removing his beard, his peyah using his scissors, would also incur the same liability. Now we go over to the pasuk in Parshas KIDDUSHIN, which discusses Yisrael, ordinary Yisraelim. Don't destroy. Well, destroy means total and complete removal at the root, which a scissors does not do. So scissors is not a problem. Okay, destruction is a problem. What about pulling out the hair? It's a malaket. Tweezers, rehitni, some sort of metal utensil, like a plane, like a carpenter's plane, which certainly pulls out the entire hair. Is he chayiv? No, we go back to the Kohanim, where it says leigalechu, denoting a tool which is typically used for shaving. So we have two conditions, two criterions for this Isra. Complete and full removal of that hair, but in a typical fashion, using your typical tools. So what qualifies? Which tool has both elements? Haketzad, giluach, full removal, sheish ba'ashchasa. So giluach means the typical manner of removal. Sheish ba'ashchasa, which accomplishes a complete, full removal of that hair. Only one thing does that, a razor. So bottom line is, the connection, the Zereshava, Pa'as, is coming to connect the Israelim to the Kehanim to teach us the fundamentals of the Yisr. That's what it's for. Not coming to speak about the Bonim and the Bonis. Well, it says the Gemara came because if it's only coming to tell you these fundamentals, Nichtav Kra'es Shebezakancha, then the Pasuk wouldn't have to actually say the word Pa'as. It would say Lo Yisashchis Eshe Bezakancha. In the pasuk in Parshas KIDDUSHIN, we say L'Sashchis Eshe Bezakancha. Don't destroy what's on your face on your beard. Why Pa'as? My Pa'as Zakancha. Shmamah Notarti. That's an extra expression, extra reference, which is coming to double the power of the Gzera Shava. Meaning, the Rashi explains it like this. Of course, we need to connect the pasuk of Yisraelim, which is the Parshas KIDDUSHIN, to the pasuk of Kehanim, which is the Parshas Emor, which reveals to us the details and the parameters of the Isra of Leig Alecha, right? So we need that Gzera Shava for that purpose. But for that alone, the Torah wouldn't have to say the word Pa'as by the Yisraelim. We'll just say, L'Sakiva Pa'as Reishchem, and L'Sashchis Eshe Bezakancha, and we would know it means the corners of your beard, and we connect it to the Pa'as of the Kehanim for that Gzera Shava. The fact that Torah verbalizes the word Pa'as again, Shmamah Notarti, it's coming to give us that second layer to the Gzera Shava, to highlight that there's another aspect of the connection, of the Gzera Shava. There's another reason why we're making this connection. And apparently the only way we can substantiate this connection is by explaining that the Torah is trying to transfer something which we find by Kehanim to the Israelim, which is that Parshas Emor in its entirety only relates to Bnei Aaron, V'loi Bnei Aaron, including hair removal and beard removal, all that. And now we transfer that concept to the Israelim. We say, well, only men are included in these Isurim, but not women. Okay, so we sort of came full circle and substantiated Abaye's Gzera Shava, which provides a source to this idea. One thing still left outstanding is that Brisa. Velo Dasanya, what about the Brisa which we mentioned before? Zaken, Zakana Isha Vasris, Shalos Seyar. If a woman grows a beard, Harein Kazakan Chodevreim, which we read as a full-fledged beard. What's the point? Regarding one halacha, hair removal, they're not included. Amamar Zutra Latumas Nagoyim, for a totally different concept. Nothing to do with our sugya. There's a parsha, in Parshas Tazria, Metzora, right, discussing a nega which was discovered on one's face, on his beard. It's called Niskei Roish V'Zakan, which have their own rules. It's different than the standard nega discovered on one's skin. So halacha is, the Bryce is coming to tell us that halacha is that even an isha who happens to show some facial hair, that even an isha, if she has facial hair, we treat it as a zaken regarding the nega zaken. That's all. And Tumas Nagayim asks the Gemara, well, that's obvious. Women are included in all aspects of Tumas Nagayim wherever it's relevant to them. Tumas Nagayim behedik siva. We have a pasuk, Isha Isha. Ki yegabay nega. Clearly, the Torah is including the Isha to the Nega Zaken. The fact that she's susceptible to Tumas Nagoyim in that area, okay, that's a pasuk. But how is she meant to extract herself from that situation? So the point of the Brisa is that she can employ the regular system of purification just like a man. Well, that's obvious. If you get in, you get out. Taras Nagoyim Name Pshita, given the Bas Tumahi, if she can become Tameh, Bas Tahari, then of course, she's given the keys to get out. Well, Israel says the Gemara, let's go back to the first notion. The Bryce is coming to include the Isha regarding Tumas, Nega found in the Zakan. Well, it's a pasuk. Well, it's not so simple. Israel Sakad Chamina, let's start them ksiv. You can reinterpret the pasuk in the following way. It says Isha Isha. Kiya boy Nega Barosh. So maybe that, the Nega Barosh applies to both genders. But this next part of the pasuk, Oy Bezakan, maybe that's specific to man. Hadar Asan Leish, Kamashmon. That's why the Brisa comes and says no. Regarding Tumas Nagoim, even the Nega discovered on one's Zakan, it can apply to an Ish and theoretically even to an Ish. So the bottom line is, Mitzvahs Lois Asay apply to women generally. We have some exceptions, Bal Takif, Bal Sashchis, Bal Tatamil Mason. We discovered the source for all those halachas. But according to Isi, Izatana, there's a fourth item on this list. Isi Tani Af Bibal Yikruchu Nosham Turit. There's an Isra in the Torah to pull out one's hair upon experiencing a tragedy. So Nosham Apata from that. My time with the Isi, why? Darish Hachi. He has a pasuk. Pasuk says, don't engage in these irresponsible behaviors, even during difficult moments. We must view it as a act of loving kindness from Hashem. Don't hurt yourself. Don't damage yourself. You're Hashem's sons. You're Hashem's children. Right? So don't pull out your hair. That's the pasuk. The word banim tells us banim v'leibanos. Look, karcha. Regarding this halacha of karcha, it's limited to banim and not to women. That's Isi's source. Well, ata im karcha. You're suggesting that the pasuk is limiting the issue of karcha, of hair removal, to men. Perhaps the pasuk, which mentions both expressions of anguish, karcha, ripping out hair, unless it's gaidu, scraping one's skin. So perhaps the women are not included in the second thing, in gedida, not in the karcha. The answer is kishu aimer kiam kodesh ata l'Hashem alekecha harei gedida amar. You see, the pasuk seems to include everybody. You're a Hashem's holy nation, so that's all encompassing. Men and women are included in that, description. Harei gedida amar, they're included in gedida. So what then does the pasuk mean? Only banam leibanos? Like karcha, regarding karcha. Ma rois, who says? So basically one's in and one is out, right? Who says karcha is out and gedida is in? Maybe the other way. Ma rois, the rabbi says gedida. Who says that women are included in gedida? Lo says karcha, not in karcha. Why do you prefer gedida over karcha? Yeah, there's a reason for it. Marben is Hagdida. You know why Gdida stands higher and includes women? Yeshna b'makom seir. V'shaloi b'makom seir. Gdida applies to a place where there's hair growing or a place with just skin. So it's a broader isser, and therefore includes women. Moitzin is hakarcha, as opposed to karcha. She'enel b'makom seir is limited to a place of hair. Asks Gemara Kasha. Ve'ema banim v'leibanos bein lekarcha bein legedida. There are two concepts within gedida. There's gedida, which is using a utensil to damage one's skin, and there's something called sarita, doing it manually, scraping one's skin manually without a utensil. So we have three expressions of anguish: karcha, gedida, and sarita. So maybe we should say it like this: some have to be included and some excluded, right? So let's suggest banim leibanos bein lekarcha bein legedida, that regarding karcha and gedida, only men are included. And when the pasuk speaks about the nation as a whole, it's only regarding srita, which is manually. Only there do we include the women. Okay. Says the Gemara, how do you know that the women are included in gedida? The reason is because Isi holds that really Sritam Gedida Achasi. He doesn't make that distinction that one is with a Yad, one is Bekli. He holds that Sritam Gedida are just two forms of, expression describing the same thing. Whether you do it manually, you do it with a Kli. So he doesn't differentiate. And there's no room for that distinction any longer. Therefore, it's a choice between Karcha and, skin scraping. And he includes the skin thing and excludes the karcha, because as we explained, karcha has a disadvantage, it's only b'makom ser, and therefore it's more probable that it's limited and applies only to men. So bottom line is, according to Isi, not only are women excluded from baltatami l'meisim and baltakiv and baltashchis, but from li'ichur karcha as well. Okay, and on Amud Aleph we had the sugya of mitzvahs leishas man groma, which apply only to men. It's learned from the Binyan Avav Tefillin, or from the Hekesh Tefillin, or from Re'iyah. We have some exceptions to the rule, Matzah, Simcha, V'Haka, but we can't learn from there. Mitzvah Shleis Man Groma apply to everybody. We do have some exceptions. So first of all, we learn it from Meira Avaim, which is Le'ez Man Groma, applied to women. We have some exceptions, which is Peri Yeribia, Talmud Torah, Pidna Ben, but it doesn't allow us to learn from there because there's Shnei Ksuvim, as we explained in the Gemara, or Shleish Ksuvim. And then we have mitzvahs leishas say apply to everybody equally. We have three sources, each one highlighting a different aspect of this concept. And then we concluded with some exceptions to this rule as well. The 3 or 4 mitzvahs leishas say which are specific to men. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.